Yeah, I'm coming on my 20th year of sworn law enforcement services here. Um, Background from uh, being assigned to patrol divisions, prior K-9 handler to criminal investigations, narcotics. Currently, I'm a supervisor of a special operations unit where we we kind of specialize in narcotic street crimes, gang activity, things of that nature. I'm also a active member of my agency SWAT team, and I oversee all of our dive, rescue, recovery, and maritime operations as well.
So just a few things.
Yeah, just a few things.
And where is your role? So you're in, like, how many people are you um, managing or in charge of at certain points in time?
Right now, I'm a supervisor of a unit that is it encompasses four officers. That includes myself, and I am directly over two criminal investigators, which are narcotics investigators as well right now.
Okay, so let's talk about, I guess, your experience. What we do know, we've talked about that you ended up on medical leave. So let's talk about before the medical leave happened. What were you experiencing? What were you feeling? And what do you believe led up to that?
But before the leave, it was just the daily rigors of everything that was going on. I mean, you know, being assigned cases, being part of a proactive unit, to where we're going and developing informants and handling caseloads, and I mean, you just name it, a whole gambit of things that I didn't really think of at the time were putting stressors on me, but just a whole lot of feelings, emotions that were culminated into the job. One of the biggest things was the being productive all the time, and the expectations of the unit, the very high expectations that we not only hold for ourselves but for the rest of the agency. Kind of leading by example, right down to just that radio cracking and a hot call coming out, going and responding with other officers. I know that the majority of the group can kind of put themselves in my shoes and in that aspect, with the boots on the ground, so to speak.
Yeah. So I know when I first met you, when you first came into the group, you had posted something as well about doing 36 hours straight, where you were doing warrants, controlled buys, foot pursuits, all of these things in a 36-hour period. And then afterwards, you would describe your car. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. Just like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That specific incident was, it was a raid that my unit had put together on two separate houses, two separate locations, where we utilized our SRT as well as our command staff just for manpower. That day was really monotonous because we had to formulate these search warrants. We had to formulate the manpower going in. We had to be able to handle the search itself, the collection of evidence, the arrests that were entailed in the processing of the arrestees. And things just unfolded that day to where we ended up in vehicle pursuits, foot pursuits, and it literally went on 36 plus hours. And at the end of that day, my partner and I, we got out of our nondescript vehicle, and we're just cleaning cleaning out the contents of that vehicle, and there was just so much, so many like fast food wrappers, energy drink cans, things strewn about. And I believe I articulated it as, when I looked at everything that we were pulling out of that vehicle that we had culminated over the 36-hour period, I kind of laughed it off, but I felt like I'm looking into a vehicle that I would be searching on the side of a road with a couple of meth addicts that just went on a cross-country trip.
Yeah.
And, things really, really, really hit me just by looking at everything that we were taking out of that vehicle, and the way that I was feeling at the end of that 36 hours. I knew that what I was feeling wasn't right, and there's got to be a fix to it somewhere to be able to continue this process.
Yeah. And it wasn't long after that you ended up on medical leave.
That's right.
So do you believe that was one of the contributing factors?
That was one of them. The medical leave was it's looked at as a certain incident, but that certain incident is not as pronounced as 20 years of other incidences that have been swept under the rug. And talking to doctors and therapists, I articulate it as opening Pandora's box. We have a way of just kind of sweeping things to the side and saying, hey, look, I'm okay, and just driving on with the mission. But it ultimately takes a toll on us, and little bits and pieces of everything that we sweep under that rug on a daily basis, they're always there, and they kind of just eat at you, daily. My biggest thing was not addressing those issues, not addressing what it was doing to me mentally and physically, and just saying, hey, look, I'm okay, when really I wasn't.
Yeah. I remember we were talking and you were saying that just going around your city. So it's very different with different officers. I know my husband is in a very large city, and we don't live in the division that he works. So he's not driving through it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But people who are in smaller areas are driving through, like medium, small areas. You're driving through a lot of the streets where things have happened.
Right.
And I remember you saying that there wasn't really one city block that wasn't triggering you.
Absolutely. I could ride through my jurisdiction, and before I changed duties and went to a larger jurisdiction, I was kind of tied into the smaller area, but even that smaller area began to encroach on this larger jurisdiction that I'm currently working. And I mean, I literally couldn't drive one or two city blocks without having a thought, well, a chase happened here, a shooting happened here. I made a drug search warrant busted this house. Just things that would trigger me and set me in a mood to where I was just really, really, really lethargic, just, not wanting to address it, knowing everything is there, but almost to a point to, I believe I told you, where I would go by these places and not even want to get out of the car, if needs be.
Yeah. So this has affected other things. I remember you were talking about reports with the brain fog over time. How long were you struggling with the reports, and can you explain what struggling with your reports means to you?
The majority of our job is reporting. Yep. We go out and we have that 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of fun, and we come back and it's hours of paperwork and reports afterwards. And I remember as a young officer, reports were big issues with me because, I mean, you've got a case that's going to that may go to trial a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. So everything's got to be detailed and in chronological order. So, I was, and I still am a big stickler on reporting. And as a young officer, I was acclaimed for being very articulate, being able to describe things in very, very detail during these reports. And thinking back on it, that brain fog took a lot of that away from me, stumbling over my words, thinking, okay, how am I going to say this? How am I going to make this sound right? I was struggling with that for the longest time before I was able to find something to help clear this brain fog, these lifestyle changes, and implementing everything that's kind of starting to fall back into place.
Yeah, I remember that brain fog for me as well. And just
Sure.
There'd be times I would even open the fridge and not be able to compute what was inside, let alone what I needed to even do with the food, if it was make a sandwich or make lunch or whatever.
Absolutely. You set your keys down and 5 minutes later, you don't remember where they are.
Yes.
Simple things, little small things. But even though we think, okay, that's something small, and something small in a reporting process.
Yes.
Just your wording, being able to pinpoint things and struggling over those small details. That was enough to just throw me into a tailwind.
And it adds another stressor to you that you don't need on top of everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so when we get into that state as well, we get more hypervigilant, and we get where it's almost like we start attracting conflict and things. And I know for you, like you were mentioning about social media, and I used to be the same, where you just feel like you need to be scrolling and fixing everything and replying and giving your thoughts on things. Can you explain how that was with you and how that's changed now?
Absolutely. We all get caught in the process of, going through your Facebook, going through your Instagram, whatever social media platform that you're using, scrolling through. And, I can remember seeing something that would just agitate me, and I would want to address it and, try to fix every little thing I could and put my perspective out there to the world on it. Well, unbeknownst to me, that few seconds or minutes of effort and thought that I'm putting into that is not really changing someone's mind. It's not really doing anything effective to benefit me. And I would catch myself, going through scrolling and typing something in, in the long run, it really didn't matter. Now I catch myself scrolling through, and I would just scroll through. I look at it, have whatever the topic may be. Yes, I've got my thoughts on it or whatnot, but I'll take that energy and put it somewhere else, into something that's ultimately going to benefit me, my family, my friends, my kids that are sitting right in front of me.
Yeah, I would find with my kids too, I'd be saying the same thing of, just a sec, I just need to help this person.
Absolutely.
I right this here. Meanwhile, my child's right beside me wanting my attention.
Right.
And also taking my energy, so then I don't have energy for them after. But when we're in that state of that hypervigilance, when we're in that state where our body is just revving at such a high stress state, or we're in that burnout phase, that type of social media triggers, it gives you dopamine, which is what our body is craving. And we're trying to get what our body needs at that point in time. It just becomes this whole vicious cycle.
Right.
So let's go into, after your diagnosis, with different treatments. So tell me about the treatment process, being on wait lists, trying to get into people, changing therapists, all of these things, the meds.
Well, when I found your program, we had talked about it, and I was in the process of starting, more traditional methods of medicine, with therapy, doctors, things of that nature. Well, I would, in the inception of everything, I would go to one doctor. This doctor would say this, prescribe a pill. Okay. I would go with the flow, with the hopes that, okay, something is going to happen. It's got to get better. Well, that doctor would turn into another doctor, same hopes, the same process. Here's a pill. It's going to get better. Okay, if this doesn't work, we're just going to up this medication, or we're going to give you something else. And eventually, I actually, with the medications that were being prescribed to me, I developed serotonin toxicity, and I mean, it just made me sick. My digestive system, which was already in turmoil, was in more turmoil. I would be freezing cold, but breaking out into hot sweats, and the anger and agitation was just magnified. At that point, I came to the conclusion. I said, this isn't working for me. I'm going to give this 911 lifestyle program 100%. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to forgo the things that have been placed in front of me with traditional medicine, and just open my mind to, hey, look, is there a possibility that this could work?
Yeah. And thank you for trusting me on that
Sure.
one. Because I know for you guys, it's not easy, and it's what I do isn't traditional, but as with me too, I've struggled through all of this. I've struggled through the doctors and the meds and the specialists and all of these things myself, as well as with my son, who was born in full burnout because I was in full burnout when I was pregnant, and I didn't have what it took to support him. So I've been through it myself with my child. It just goes through all of that. But so I know what you guys are feeling, and it's hard to trust when so many people have been throwing so many things at you. So let's talk about what's happened since the program, where, like, with your sleep, with everything, how you're feeling, how are you now?
Man, I feel like a different person. I still know that there's a long road ahead of me.
Yeah.
But with the progression that I've made since I've fully dedicated myself to the program, and I believe we had talked last, we're going on maybe 2 months max at this point in time. But just starting out with the simple changes, the vitamin regimen, the water challenges, the breathing, that I could begin. I could feel from the inception of it, the things were starting to change with the water intake, the not drinking the 2 and 3 energy drinks a day, or the fast food, or the quick snack from the cupboard, the salty potato chips, or the brownie full of sugar. Taking that stuff out of the equation and upping my water intake along with the vitamins at first, I could start feeling something changing in me. I was having more energy. I was waking up with a different thought process. When I really started going into the adaptogens, that was one of the biggest things that you were teaching me about.
Mm-hmm.
The rhodiola, that made
first day.
That made the biggest difference with me in itself. That adaptogen itself did more for me than traditional medicine did. I had the energy. The brain fog started to subside. I wasn't stumbling over my words. My thought process became clearer. And just the effects of these small changes, water, breathing, the supplements, it's things started lifting. Things started becoming more clear. Spending time with my children, the things that they would do to set me off, and get me in that hypertense state, I was just blowing them off. I was just blowing off those little things that would agitate me. And I was able to start enjoying time with my family, time with my kids. And one of the biggest things that has happened with me is my family doesn't feel like they're walking on eggshells around me. Yes, that's been huge. And that's been one of the keys that I've been looking for so long. Being able to decrease that tension with my children and my wife and those that are around me. Being able to enjoy that time and, cherish it.
Yeah. Do you remember messaging me about 3 days after you started all the vitamins and all like that motivation reboot stage? When you started that, about 3 days in, you messaged me and you said that you weren't balled up in a bed in the morning waiting for them to leave. You were laughing.
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
like, you laughed.
We that morning, this was before Christmas, and my kids had a play at school that day, and they had some of their little props strewn about the house and whatnot. I got one of my girls' reindeer antlers that they were using for the for the program. I was wearing them around the house that morning, and that was just one of the little things that I was able to share with them, taking that time instead of being on my phone scrolling through, seeing, what can I change in the world? What can I throw out there that it's not going to really bring any benefit to me. I was spending time with them. They were laughing. They're like, "Hey, look, it's Dad. It's 6:30 in the morning when I'm doing that with them." Typically, I was balled up in the bed, trying to muster the energy to be able to get up and go out and do whatever it is that day I needed to. And that's, even from that has grown. One of the most recent things that I've done is I've changed my magnesium intake to the evenings, and I've also implemented the melatonin, the 3 milligram melatonin, and I'm able to sleep. I'm able to get a restful night's sleep without tossing and turning, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, coming to the living room, cutting the TV on, and just wondering, hey, look, when are my eyes going to close? When is my mind going to stop turning? I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, full of energy, ready to go, without that cup of coffee that I usually take. Yeah. And that's been huge for me.
Yeah. Just for people that are getting this. So the supplements, definitely where they go and when to implement them and how much, because I know that's one thing too with the magnesium is a lot of people think of them more as a sleeping pill and putting them to sleep instead of it. What it does with the magnesium is it actually gets your sleep hormone, your melatonin hormone, with the melatonin, is it gets that hormone to start turning on. So we have a routine as well that in addition to the supplements that help to start triggering certain hormones, when to turn on, when to not turn on, when to be calmer, how to support you for your digestion to be working, all of these things. We have that just in that motivation reboot stage. But as you're going through the program, which you're only 2 months in, like you haven't gone through, I think, a quarter of the lessons yet.
Right.
And going through those all keeps building on it more and more. So you keep telling your body what hormones to be kicking in when and how to do it. So you do keep waking up even, when you're back on the job, to be able to get you so that on any shift, your body knows when to be doing what and how to be doing it.
Absolutely. I think it's very important the way that you've got this structured with getting these small lifestyle changes underway first. Yeah. Because now I can see the importance of, being able to continue with this program and having the mindset and that brain fog lifted to be able to understand and comprehend clearly what's going on.
Yeah. And that's it. Like it's all slow steps. Have you found it overwhelming at all, or too much information at once? Have you been able to, like, have I been successful, I guess, in making sure that it's not overwhelming and it will work around like shift schedules and crazy hours and being in that full burnout stage?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the best things about it is you can do it at your own pace.
Mhm.
There's no one breathing down the back of your neck saying you have to do this by this time. Yeah, I mean, you can take it as you can progress with it as you need.
Yeah.
If one thing isn't working, you can kick back and start it back over. I know the first time I did the water challenge, I probably I I've probably done your water challenge 3 to 4 times
Yeah.
before I was able to get it set to where it's almost habitual, where I'm grabbing that water bottle and drinking it throughout the day. Right now, my water intake is such that every meal I'm drinking water with it. Every waking moment that I think about, I'm drinking water. I'm
Mhm.
not thinking about going for that sweet tea out of the refrigerator. I'm not thinking about stopping by the local Quick Mart to get that energy drink. It's second nature for me now.
Yeah.
The breathing. I downloaded an application for my smartwatch that kind of it monitors my heart rate, and it can tell it tells me, hey, look, your heart rate is getting above X, breathe. I catch myself now doing those breathing exercises when I feel the agitation and anxiety coming on before my watch even alerts me that, hey, look, you need to take a second and relax. And going back to what you were talking about, how you've got the stages based out, being able to go back and start these stages over and over until I get it right has helped me keep interest in it. I don't feel like there's any pressure by anyone out there, including yourself, to maintain. Okay, we're here. We got to do this. We got to do this. Go back and start over whenever you need to.
Mhm.
You're not going to hurt anyone. You're helping yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is habits are learned. And how long did you have the habit of all grabbing energy drinks and all the coffee and always being in your stress system? It's going to take you
Sure.
time, and small little pieces every day add up. They all compound. So,
Right.
like with a lot of you guys in the program, it takes, I'd say the first few months is working on just a couple of little habits, as well as doing that motivation reboot phase. Kicking in that motivation reboot phase, every time that you do, you're able to start adhering to the habits a little bit more as you get a little more brain power, and as your
Right.
more energy comes, and as your sleep improves, then you can start adding more. And that's why, like, I don't even have, what is it, the fourth module and the fifth module are the physical and the nutrition. Like, we're not even there.
Right.
There's so many other modules and things to work at before you even get there, and that's why it takes like
Sure.
6 9 months, sometimes 12 months for people to get through it.
Absolutely.
So one thing too, you were talking about, over the holidays, you went in your backyard with your bow. You're doing archery.
One thing that I had lost was doing things that interest me, my hobbies, just little things that would take my mind off of work, off of everything else that's going on in my life. I was consumed by, okay, you've got to fix this, you've got to fix that, you got to fix this, instead of doing something for me. Um, I'm I'm a I'm an avid bow hunter. I love archery, always have. And it used to be one of those things that it would take my mind off of everything. It's a it's a it's a task that you have to have set several facets to be able to achieve an ultimate goal. Um, your ultimate goal is to get that arrow in the target, and to do that, you've got to have your breathing under control. You've got to be able to assess the target. You've got to be able to align your sights. All these different little keys have to fall into place to be able to get that arrow into the target. So the day after Christmas, I didn't have anything going on, nothing pressing. Family was here, whatnot. Well, I decided, hey, I'm going to knock the dust off my bow. Went out in the backyard, and I shot for about 45 minutes. And it was a release for me, and it was almost symbolic in the release, pulling back the tension of the string, getting everything in order, and releasing that tension. I can remember the feeling that I had after I did that for 45 minutes. I just sat in the sun and kicked back in my chair by the little station I had set up, and I was like, man, this is what it feels like to feel good again. I mean, the sun rays were, I mean, it was almost cathartic, the feeling that I had, just from doing that and sitting and thinking about everything that I had done the weeks prior that were making me feel like I was again. And let me kick back. Not like I was, like I am. Yeah. I've got that energy to do that. I've got the interest back to do that. I'm not dwelling on the little things that need to be done that were stressing me out prior. I'm putting energy back into things that were important to me. Yeah. And that's huge. It's huge for me.
So important. And we don't think, like, quite often we think that, oh, it's the shift work. It's that I don't have a lot of time in between shifts. It's all of these things. Or now that I have, I'm married, and now that I have kids, I just don't have time for these things. But in reality, quite often it's that your stress management system was so exhausted that you were
absolutely
not part of it in yourself from a physical point.
Fully agree.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is we don't realize that. And
that's right.
It doesn't have to be. And so then you were telling me that you tested yourself yesterday?
Yesterday was I intentionally kind of put myself in a stressful situation just to see how I would react to some things that were going on in my life outside of law enforcement. I had a busy day with family, busy day with kids, and I run a business on the side, which is kind of a lucrative hobby, I would call it, more than a business. But I wasn't able to get to those tasks until later yesterday evening. I put the precedence of the day on family. So when I came back home yesterday evening, the wife, she was home, got the kids situated. Well, I went out into my shop to start my work for the evening. And basically I simulated it as, okay, I'm going back out on shift away from the family at night. I'm not in the safe confines of my home, spending time with the kids or spending time, talking with the wife or whatnot. But I'm out here and I have tasks that have to be accomplished. I can't do that sitting on the couch, can't do that inside. So I took myself out of what my normal routine has been for the past few months and changed it up to where I was working yesterday evening. So I'm out in my shop. I'm listening to music that I usually listen to when I'm out there. And these feelings started coming back in of, the mundane task or the almost, it was almost an inundating feeling of worthlessness and sadness that just started coming back over me. I started thinking about things that had happened in the past in law enforcement, certain incidences that had always bothered me. One big thing that popped up into mind is I've got a trip coming up with my wife to a show that she routinely goes to where they're selling work boots, things like that. And the people there, they always ask about things that have happened throughout the year in law enforcement. And I'm sitting there thinking, what do I tell these people? What am I going to tell them? I know they would like to hear this story, but I really don't want to talk about this story to these people. I don't really want to give them the details of what happened during this case. And the details of those cases started popping up. Well, I could feel myself, becoming agitated. I could feel that hypertension start kicking back in. So I started reverting back to the water and the breathing exercises. Well, the more water that I started chugging and the taking a minute or two to myself just to breathe and concentrate on my breathing, concentrate on the drinking of the water, I was able to de-escalate myself and subside those feelings to get done with the task that was at hand. I would get back to work. My mind would start wandering again. Well, I'd start drinking water and start breathing again. I'd take a minute or two for myself, and I was able to get through the task of the evening and come back in and be with my family afterwards. And the reason I did that whole process of putting myself away from my family in the evening was to see, are these feelings going to come back? Is my mind going to start wandering again? And yes, it did, but I had some tools to alleviate the feelings that were coming back in. Instead of letting them, those feelings take me over and put me into a mindset where, I just want to sit down and go in my shell. I was able to take the just simply drinking water and breathing, push through that task, and ultimately come back in and enjoy my evening.
Yeah. I think that the thing with that too is that the water and breathing, I just do want people to take note that it's working for you because you've done that motivation reboot phase, because you have supported your stress management system and it's becoming more and more resilient, that those tools, as you get better at doing them as well, are able to take more effect. So yeah, it's just, I find that with that, like being able to take that effect with you. So, this has been, I think, just hearing your story is just amazing, because this is exactly why I do what I do. And it's to really get you guys out the other side. And we're only like a month and a half, 2 months into the program. So like, there's so much more growth that I know that you're going to be getting out of it. But what I know that you actually are even talking about going back to like when you're able to go back to work, whereas that wasn't even in your vocabulary.
Sure.
When we started.
Right. And as of a week ago, after we talked last, I was feeling motivated to start going back, start dealing with those stressors again. I was thinking about paperwork. It wasn't bothering me thinking about it. Yeah. To the point of where, even if one of my guys that I'm supervising needs assistance with a case, which, I would always help them even before now, but now I don't feel like I would be that agitated supervisor that's like, okay, we've got to do this again. I can remember my guys before I started this program, I would go in the office in the morning and they would just look at me like, okay, what kind of mood is he in today? What is it going to take to set him off again today? Now that's so far from the back of my mind. I don't even feel that way anymore. I've been able to, hold on. My phone just clicked in with a call, but I don't even feel like I have to be that recluse or be that one that nobody wants to deal with. Another thing that I've noticed with this is my interaction with people, whether I know them or not, has been different. Just this morning, after I dropped my kids off at school, I was getting gas at a local gas station. Older fella, he was sitting outside smoking a cigarette, and he just initiated a conversation. Well, we had a 30-minute conversation about Lord knows what out there, in a place that I frequent. I'd never seen this guy before.
Mm-hmm.
Before I know, I would have blown this guy off, just walked in, gone about my day, came right back out. It was enjoyable talking with this person. A lot of people that I have worked with, a lot of my close friends or whatnot, I had pushed away. And I've seen a difference just in these short months. My interaction with them has been enjoyable to the point of, we can talk. They're not on edge. As I said earlier, the people around me, they're not walking on eggshells like they were. And it feels good that I'm able to put that in play, and I can get back to being the person that I know I am and that I was before. And that's the biggest gift that this has given me.
And the dad you know that you want to be.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The being able to spend time with my kids, being able to enjoy spending time with my kids, and not that just being, okay, this is another task I have to do today or whatnot. It's been huge. And, like I told you last week, I can't articulate how big that is to me. I can't put it into words, the feeling that's given back. And the most exciting thing about this is I know this is just a beginning.
Yeah.
We've got more to go, and I feel like that I can handle it and process it so much better now than 6 months ago or a year ago. I believe that it might have been last April or May when I finally found your program, and I was really on the fence about it.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had have put 100% into the program last April or May when we started. But one thing that this whole process has shown me is the biggest difference between traditional medicine and what you're doing.
Yeah.
What you're doing works. It's worked for me. And it just took me getting off of that ledge and, diving head first in, saying, hey, look, okay, here I am. And it's one of the best things I can say I've done so far.
That just means the world to me, because that's exactly why I do this. Like, exactly why. So thank you so much for all of this. I know for you guys, just even talking about this is not something that is easy for you in your job. There's always so many walls up and everything. So thank you for trusting me, and thank you for telling your story, because I know that this is going to just help so many others. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.